All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. It is not often that we're all in the same room together, so it's really fun to have us all here together, and it's a great way to kick off the year. You might have to thank you. So we are going to start off today with a little bit of friendly competition. So if you guys can open up the white folder in front of you and take out the sheet that says Find Someone Who. This is basically a kids ministry version of bingo. So what you need to do is stand up, rotate around the room, and you're looking for someone who meets the description on each box. And then they need to initial the box. And you have to have someone different initial each box. You can't have the same person do two. And the first three people, their entire box initialed, can come up here and get a chocolate money gift card. Okay? Does everybody get it? So you're looking for someone to fill in the boxes. Sound good? Go ahead and start. All right, everybody. We have our three winners of our game. I'm going to have them tell us their names and where they serve in kids ministry.
I'm Lainey, and I serve in the nursery. I'm Alexa, and I serve in the nursery.
I'm Jan, and I serve in first grade.
Alright, well, I said earlier that this is one of the only times all year that we're all in a room together. And I love it so much because I look around and I see so many people who love God and love our kids and give their time and their energy to serve. I see people who show up week after week, even when they're tired, because they know that the next generation matters. I see people who we couldn't do kids ministry without, because without you guys here, kids ministry would not be possible. And so I'm so grateful that all of you are here and that all of you said yes to serving in kids ministry this year. I'm going to spend a few minutes here at the beginning just talking about kind of the big vision, why we serve and where we're going this year. And then you guys are going to have a chance just to break out into smaller groups around your tables to get to know one another and talk about more specifics for the age level that you're working with. And then we'll come back together at the end just to talk about a few more practical things. And we'll try to wrap up by 1 o'clock since we started a little bit early. So many of you know that last year we transitioned to an emphasis on leading small and the importance of investing in a few kids over time. And these ideas, and most of the ideas that I will be talking about today, come from Orange. And this was one of the questions on the bingo board. Orange is the curriculum that we use, but it's also more than just a curriculum. It's really the philosophy that we use to do ministry. And the color orange comes from red, which is the heart of the family, and yellow, which is the light of the church. And combining those two things, we get orange. And Orange's emphasis is really on relationships with God and with one another. So this, I know I gave a lot of you this book last year, but it's just a really simple overview of Orange's philosophy and our kind of where we're going in kids ministry here. And so I have some extra copies up here. If you haven't read this yet, I really encourage you to, but that's where a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today comes from. So last year, we really focused on building deep relationships with the kids in our small group. But this year, we also want to focus on building those relationships with each other. And that's why you're sitting around a round table with the team that you'll be working with this year. And around your table, you also your team coach. And your coach is going to be someone throughout the year who's going to be pouring into you and encouraging you and coming alongside you as you come alongside our kids. And during our breakout later, they'll talk a little bit more about what their role is going to be. But I want our coaches to stand up so everybody can see who they are. It's Megan Warren for preschool, and Becca Cisco for nursery, and Julia Clow for elementary back there. And then I also want my steering team ladies to stand up. And that's Susan Schechter and Sandy Hergo, and Trish Anderson isn't here. But these ladies are amazing. They do so much for kids ministry, and I know that they will be really great resources for this year as well. So today, we're gonna just jump in by talking about how important it is to be present. Simply showing up. Once we move to breakouts, you can all shuffle around as needed, so it's not a big deal. So we're going to talk about the importance of just showing up in our kids' lives. And I don't think I've ever heard another story that captures the importance of showing up like my friend Millie's. Millie was my roommate when I lived in Delaware, and we ended up becoming really good friends. And this is a picture of she and I whenever she came to visit me last summer in Michigan. And some of you actually got to meet her then and hear her tell this story. But her story has just really encouraged me on days when I have felt discouraged. So I wanted to share it with you this morning in hopes that it will do the same thing for you this year. So Millie grew up in Uganda in absolute poverty. She had a single mom and a lot of brothers and sisters. And often they didn't even have enough food to eat. She had to drop out of elementary school because her family didn't have enough money to pay for it, and she needed to help support them. And Millie didn't grow up in a Christian family, but every Sunday morning, her mom sent her and her siblings to church because she knew that for a couple hours every week, they would be cared for. And every Sunday morning, Millie and her siblings would go to church, and every Sunday morning, they knew that they didn't belong there. They were poor and dirty, they didn't smell good, and they didn't fit in, and they could tell that other people felt that same way. And Millie told me, and told many of you when she was sharing her story, that every single Sunday, her siblings and her would go to church for years, but she never understood anything that was said there, and she never really wanted to understand anything that her teachers said. And one week they went to Sunday school after going there for years and years, and they had a different teacher. His name was Edson. And Edson did something different than any teachers had done before. He called Millie by name. He asked how her mom was doing, and he showed her that she had a place to belong at church. And after that, Millie started wanting to go to church and actually listening to what Edson said for the first time because she knew that someone cared about her. One day, Millie went to Sunday school, and Edson was talking about how God is the best father that we could ever ask for. And Millie had never had a father. She really desired that in her life. And that morning, Millie accepted Jesus as her Savior. And I think that part of Millie's story always really strikes me because I think about all the other times that she came to church, and her teachers might have had the best lesson plan, they might have done the most amazing craft, maybe they had perfect classroom control, but they missed something. They missed the relationship. And they didn't realize that kids remember how you make them feel far longer than what you say. After she met Jesus, Millie's life was completely transformed. She did something pretty much unheard of in her community. She finished school, and then she went to college, and then she came to the United States for grad school, which is where I met her. And after she finished grad school, she went back to Uganda. This was just about a year ago, and she began Joyful Hearts Children's Ministry, which is a ministry in Uganda which provides early education to vulnerable children there. Because she's seen firsthand the difference that care and love can make in a child's life. And I follow Millie's Facebook page, her ministry page. I just had to show you a couple pictures of her with the kids that she's influencing. In the first picture, that's her on the far right in the white dress, and then in the second picture, she's the one taking the selfie. But every time I look at these pictures, I just think about how many hundreds of children and families she is reaching, and even future generations. But can you imagine how different her story would have been if she had never met Jesus? Her life and the life of hundreds of other children and families have been impacted because one person took the time to show up in her life and care about her. And my guess is you are here this morning and I'm here this morning because someone showed up for you. Maybe not in the same drastic, life-altering way as they did for Millie, but I think we probably all have someone in our life who has tangibly showed us the love of Jesus. So I want you to open up that white folder again, and you'll see a sticky note right inside. And I just want you to take a minute to write down the name of that person, the person who showed up in your life and showed Jesus' love to you. This year when you get tired of changing diapers in the nursery, or another preschool in the preschool room has a meltdown, or you just don't want to play another round of Simon Says, just think about this sticky note and think about the impact that showing up can have in a child's life. Because all of you are the Adsons to our kids here at Forest Park. I know sometimes it doesn't feel like it after a chaotic Sunday morning or Wednesday night, but most likely Edson didn't know that he was doing anything special in Millie's life either. And I think about that Sunday morning that Millie came to Christ. Edson might have gone home that morning feeling discouraged because he didn't make it through his lesson plan, or frustrated because he didn't think that the kids in his class were listening to him. But he kept showing up, and he kept showing that he cared, and that changed everything. So when you keep showing up week after week for our kids, that is making a difference too. And ultimately, we show up because that's what Jesus did. When Jesus was on earth, he got personal. He touched people with diseases. He washed dirty feet. He talked to a scandalous woman, and he played with toddlers. Just think about the story of Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was not a respected person. People looked at him and they saw greed, selfishness, and deceit. But Jesus looked at him and he saw someone with potential and worth. Others looked at Millie and they saw a dirty, poor, smelly child. But Edson looked at her and he saw a beloved child of God. Everybody needs somebody to see them the way that Jesus does. When Jesus stopped for Zacchaeus, he was on his way to Jerusalem to save the entire world. But Zacchaeus was so important to him that he was willing to stop the most important mission of all time to spend time with him. And he went over to Zacchaeus' house, he got to know him, and I'm sure ultimately Jesus did want Zacchaeus to be saved, but that's not what he started with. He knew he had to love, know, and understand Zacchaeus before he said anything to him that would have a lasting impact. He knew that love had to come before truth, and he knew Zacchaeus needed to belong somewhere before he could believe anything. And I think the exact same thing is true for us today as we serve our kids here at Forest Park. Our influence grows when we seek to understand their world, when their trust in us grows. Our influence grows when we stop to ask questions, to listen to answers, and to put ourselves in their shoes. And our influence grows when we realize that the truths that matter in a kid's life need to be taught in the context of a loving relationship, not just a classroom. Our influence grows when we realize that love must come first. And that's why we all choose to serve consistently, to get to know kids' names, to go to baseball games, and to chat with parents during pickup. Because the things that we teach on Sunday mornings will have so much more impact when that relationship is there. So the bottom line of everything that I've said today is that somebody became Jesus for you and I. Someone showed up for us like Jesus showed up for us. And most likely, they didn't know the impact they were making. And this year, all of us have that same opportunity to show up in the lives of a child. So I want to take a minute, and on the other side of that sticky note, I want you to write the name of someone that you're going to show up for this year. Go ahead and take a minute to do that. I really believe the work that all of you are doing with our kids is the most important work because you are paving the way for the next generation to know Jesus better. So let's remind each other of that this year. Will you bow your heads and pray with me before we move into our breakouts? God, we are so grateful that you have allowed each of us to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We thank you for the privilege of serving the kids here at Forest Park. God, I pray a blessing over each person here this morning as they give their time, energy, and resources to serve you and to serve our kids. Would you pour into their lives and use this ministry to bless them? Remind them how valuable they are and that you have specifically chosen each one of them. God, I pray that you would speak to our hearts through this morning's training, equip and encourage us for the year ahead, and I pray that every word said here today will bring you honor and glory. We love you, God, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to give you all time now to break into your small groups, just to have a chance to get to know each other better and to talk about a few more specific things to your area. We will try, I don't know what time it is, let's try to wrap up breakouts by 12:45, and then we're going to come back together just to talk about a few more practical things that we need to know this year. So here are the breakouts. Feel free to either circle your chairs around the table or head over to a different classroom if it's too noisy in here. So Sunday morning nursery people are with Becca. Wave your hand, Becca. Over here. Preschool people are with Megan, right here. Elementary, Sunday morning elementary are with Julia. And that includes storytellers are going to go with Julia in the elementary breakout too. Greeters are going to be with me, and we're going to be right out at the check-in counter. Anyone in the gathering is going to be with Sandy. So that includes nursery, preschool, everyone for the gathering is Sandy. And then if you're a sub, go with the group that you're most likely to serve with, wherever you think you would serve if you were filling in. Sound good? Everybody know where they're going? Okay. Spend a couple minutes just talking about a few practical things for the year. First thing is T-shirts. If you haven't gotten your T-shirt yet, make sure to grab one on your way out. And Marissa Sisco designed these for us. She did an awesome job. So can we give her a hand? As far as the T-shirts, you do not have to wear them when you're serving. For those of us who are here every single week, it might get a little bit old to wear them every time. But if you'd like to wear them, please do, because it's a great way for parents to be able to identify who you are and for other people to see who's on the kids ministry team. So you're encouraged to wear them. You don't have to wear them. Next, Promotion Sunday. Oh, I had my little slide for the shirt, but I didn't bring it up. Promotion Sunday is next Sunday, September 15th. This is a really big day when all the kids start back again and they move up to their next grade levels. So elementary leaders, even if you're not scheduled to teach next Sunday, if you're able to come just to meet the kids in your small group, I think that'd be great. If not, that's okay, but I think it's a good Sunday for them to meet all of you. And then for everybody, after service, we're gonna be inviting parents down here for kind of an open house. So we'll have like donuts and a photo booth, and I would love for them to meet you guys so they can kind of put a face to who their child's small group leader are. So if you could wear your T-shirts next Sunday, that would be awesome. And then kind of be here after service, maybe standing by your classroom to start building that relationship with parents and introducing yourself to them. Okay, so T-shirts next Sunday.
Is that after both services?
Between services, between first and second service.
Is that for just Sunday, or do you want the Wednesday night?
If Wednesday night people can be here, I think that's a really good way for everyone to kind of see who their kids' leaders are this year. So if you can be here, that would be awesome. Okay, I want you to pull out that packet in your folder that has the Kids Park logo on the top. You covered some safety things in your breakout, but we have to go through a few more now just to finish up our safety policies. I know that sometimes it can be hard to go through these procedures. They're not fun to talk about, and some of you have been here for years and have heard them again and again. But I think it's just important to remember why it's so important to talk about these things. Our ultimate goal is, of course, to lead kids to know Jesus, and we believe that church is a place where that can happen. But if parents don't feel like church is a safe place or a well-run place, we miss that opportunity to reach their kids. So I think that's just really important to remember as we go through these things, and they're not always the most fun things to talk about, but it is super important to our ministry. So we're going to jump right into some of these safety things. First thing on the first page is just what to do if you cannot be here on a Sunday morning. Your first point of contact should be the people around your table, your teams. Often someone on your team can just switch weeks with you. If they can't, we have an awesome team of subs here, and all their contact information is in your folders. If you can't find anyone to switch with you, contact me, and I'm always happy to help you with that too. And just let me know either way if you won't be here on a Sunday so that I can switch it in the schedule. If you do not know which weeks you're scheduled to serve and you're wondering if you're serving this Sunday or not, download this awesome app onto your phone. I have all of the schedule done until June of next year. So you can open up the app and see all your dates for the year. So this is just a really helpful way for you to see the schedule of who is serving on that morning. Next thing is we try to meet in this room every Sunday morning at 9:10 and Wednesday at 6:10 to spend a few minutes together in prayer before the morning starts. I just think prayer is the most important tool we have to help our morning go well. And it's also a good time to connect with each other. So please try to be here if you can. And we try to wrap up within about 5 minutes so that you can be in your rooms by 9:15 or 6:15, which is really important because sometimes we do have kids coming in early and we want to make sure that we're there. As far as lessons, your lessons and any supplies you need will be ready for you in a bin in your classroom that looks like this. It has all the basic art supplies that you need. It will also have any supplies you need for that morning's lesson. And the lessons for the whole month are in these black folders in your bins. I'm not emailing lessons out, but I do have a Google Doc that I think I shared with all of you that has all your lessons for the month in it as well. So if you can access that anytime, but if you're like me and you like to look over a paper copy beforehand, feel free to come anytime and grab out your lessons out of your folder so that you have them in advance. One more thing about lessons too, the lessons are there as a guide for you, but you all know the kids in your group the best. So if you look at the lesson and think this activity just won't work with my group, or you need to change things around, please feel free to do that. It's just there as a guide for you. And if you ever need any extra materials or resources, you're free to use anything in that resource room back there, or just ask me and I can also get you any supplies you need. Okay, jumping into check-in and check-out procedures. Even volunteers, when you guys arrive, stop at the check-in counter and check in on a laptop if you don't know how we can help you. But it's just important for our attendance records that we know who's there to serve that day. And then you can also grab one of those purple lanyards to wear if you don't have your T-shirt, so that parents have a way to identify who is a volunteer in kids ministry. When the kids come, they should already have a name tag on. We try to catch everyone coming in at the check-in counter and make sure they stop and check in. If a kid comes to your room but they don't have a name tag on, just ask them if they've checked in. And if they haven't, ask their parent if they can take them back out to the check-in counter so that we can get them a name tag and get them all checked in. If the kids have any food allergies or any medical notes that you need to know, it will be listed on their name tag. So just make sure that you check those before you give out snacks or anything like that. After the blessing, at some point in the morning, greeters will come around with an attendance list, and they will leave it in that clipboard right by the door of your classroom. When you're done for the morning, the clipboard can just stay right where it is, but you can just take the attendance sheet out and bring it to the check-in counter when you're all done for the day. And then as far as checkout, whenever parents start coming, either you or your helper should be standing at the door of your classroom as parents come, and parents shouldn't come into your classroom. They should be at the door, and you'll be sending the kids out to them. And you just want to check to make sure that the kid's name tag, the number on there, matches with the number that the parents have on their tag. And they also need to initial out on the attendance list, just saying that they have picked the child up. I know it can be kind of hard with checkout sometimes because you recognize most of the parents, and it can be easy just to say, oh yeah, go ahead. But we just had a situation happen this summer, which just reminded me how important it is to check the tags. We had a parent come and pick up a child, and the parent seemed like they were supposed to be here. The child was happy to go with them, but the parent didn't have custody of the child, and it ended up just kind of being a scary situation. And I tell you that not to scare you, but just to emphasize how important it is to check the child's tags. Maybe not even as much for our church kids, but for visitors who are here. If they see you giving a child to a parent who you might know the parent really well, but the visitor doesn't know that, and they need to see that we're being vigilant and checking the child's tags before they go. Okay, so we've already talked about page 2 in your breakout. The bottom little part there about health. We just ask that any kids who have been really sick within the past 24 hours stay with their parents. In the nursery and preschool, if you see a child like chewing on a toy or playing with a toy, just throw it in the sink, and at the end of the morning, just wash down the cups and any toys that they have been chewing on. Both the elementary and preschool and nursery rooms all have Clorox wipes there if you need it. And then if you can just bring your bins back to the resource room at the end of the morning, that's a huge help too. You guys also talked about discipline in your breakout, so we'll skip over page 3. And then the last 2 things that we're going to talk about are on page 4 and 5, the child abuse and the emergency procedures. Again, not super fun to talk about, but really important. Okay, so all of you here have been approved to serve in children's ministries. You're safe people for the kids to be with. If a parent ever asks you what that means, all our volunteers have completed a volunteer application. They've either met one-on-one with me or I already know you personally. They've been at Forest Park for at least 6 months, and they have passed a background check. So just in case parents ever wonder the safety policies for our volunteers. In the nursery and preschool, we always have to have 2 adults over 18 in the room at all times. In elementary classrooms, we have to have 2 leaders, but one of them can be a teen leader, so we have to have 1 adult and 1 teen. And we always have to have at least 3 people together. We can't have just 1 leader and 1 kid by themselves. We have to have at least 3. We can't have adults alone by a child, or alone with a child, and we can't leave kids unattended without an adult. The next thing says that children younger than 5th grade must be accompanied by a parent to serve. I've made exceptions to this in the past. It just depends on the situation, but it's in there just because sometimes I know it can be hard to have too many young helpers with you, so it's more just in there for your own benefit. And then the next part is about physical contact. And unfortunately, in our culture, we just have to be really careful with our physical contact with the kids. It should be minimal and only in the presence of other adults. It should include handshakes, high fives, and brief hugs, and kids over 4 shouldn't be sitting on laps. So, if you ever suspect child abuse of any kind, please come talk to me about it. And we also have incident report forms behind the check-in counter, which hopefully we never have to use, but I want you guys to know that they're there if you ever need them. And the last thing to talk about is our emergency procedures. If you have a minor cut or bump or something like that that happens in your bin, you have a little bag that has Band-Aids and Kleenex and hand sanitizer and things like that. And at the check-in counter, we also have an ice pack and more Band-Aids and things like that. If it's anything more than a minor incident, we do just call the parents because we as volunteers can't administer medicine or anything like that. In case of a medical emergency, obviously we call 911 as our first response, then we'll notify parents. We also do have a first aid room in the church. It's located in the adult wing, by the adult wing, by the B wing hallway. In case of a fire, our meeting place is the Mary and Joseph houses back behind this back parking lot. So what we would do is we go out this room, turn left, and we go all the way down to the end of the kids' ministry hall, and there's an emergency exit out back. We would all exit out that doorway. The nursery cribs have wheels on them, so if we needed to, we could put babies in the crib and wheel them down the hallway, and we go out that back door. If this ever happens, please take your attendance list with you, because we need to have an easy way to make sure we have all the kids accounted for when we get outside. So grab your clipboard on the way. And then same thing with tornado. We would all evacuate to the prayer chapel hallway. If you don't know where that is, if you turn right, like you're walking to the worship center, right before you get to the worship center, on the left is the prayer hallway, and we would all gather in there in the prayer chapel room. And again, you need to bring your clipboard with you so you have a way to make sure you have all of your kids when you get there. In case of a lost child, you let me know, I let the ushers and greeters know, and they will block the exits. We will call 911, we'll notify parents. We also have an emergency code that we can page into the sanctuary if needed. And finally, in case of an intruder, all these classroom doors have locks on them. You'll close the door, lock it, pull the blinds down, and get the kids as far away from the door as possible. We have a whistle that we would blow that would be your signal to know that there was an intruder in the building. Again, these things aren't fun to talk about, but it's a good thing to know in case they ever happen. So, yes, questions?
So, the children go out that way. What about parents in the sanctuary? Where would they go?
I believe that is the fire location
For everyone.
for the church, is that the Mary and Joseph houses.
It would be awful if it happened. Let's say there's a fire and we're all the children are doing their business and the parents are doing their business. Would we release the children to their parents out there?
Once we got there and made sure that we had all the kids that we were supposed to, we could release them to the parents. That was a good question, yes. Anything else, Sandy?
Back on the medical emergency, are we still going to have somebody here on Wednesday nights?
Yes.
Brian has no ideas for that.
Brian Peterson is here on Wednesday nights, and he is an EMT, right, Mom? Okay, yes. And he can help. He can help if anything happens. Anything else? Okay, well, to close, I would just invite you all, if you don't mind, before you go, first of all, I need you all to sign that final page on your policy saying that we've gone through it. So if you can sign your name and just leave it on your table when you go. And then if you guys would just around your tables pray together for the kids that we're going to be working with this year. Pray for each other if you have things that you're worried about or excited about this year. And whenever you fill out your form and prayed with your group, you're free to go. But I thank you all so much for being here today, and thank you for serving this year. And I'm at the front counter if you have any questions afterwards.